Well, welcome everyone to the OpenE webinar. My name is Todd Maxwell. Along with me is Chris Wilson, our OpenE sales team. And today's webinar session is going to be about WAN Cluster Storage Solutions with iSCSI Volumes. What we're really going to be doing is trying to do replication over the WAN. So what we're going to show is setting up your router to use with the WAN Volume Replication ports. Then we're going to go ahead and create our iSCSI volumes on both source and destination. And once we do that, we're going to set up the mirrored IP addresses on both source and destination for the WAN IP addresses. What we're also entering is the WAN Replication ID. So we'll talk about that and demonstrate that. And as you know, they both have to be on source and destination. Then we'll do is create the Volume Replication Task and set the bandwidth, and then start the Volume Replication Task and verify that the volumes are consistent. Let's begin. Let's go ahead and turn off our PowerPoint and go right into the DSS systems. So I'm going to get you acclimated to what's going on here. If you notice, I'm located in Atlanta, and we have our Atlanta server, and of course in Europe we have our European server. And this is the firewall that I have right now. So in the information that you see in DSSV6, there is notations about the settings of the WAN ports when you're doing volume replication. So before going into the firewall, let's point out where that might be in case you all need that information. If we go into the volume replication under the configuration volume manager, volume replication, either click here on the left of the volume replication, or you can just go to configuration, volume manager, and volume replication. If you notice right here, mirrored server IP in this function, you can click on the question mark, and here's some information about how to set it up. So it's kind of simple. Here you see that router 1 redirects ports from 12,000 to 13,999, and also for 4,000 directed for your NAT environment to server 1, and also respectively for your other server. And of course the WAN ID or replication ID, here are some restrictions of unique combinations of 6 and 12 characters and some of the allowed characters that we're able to use. So you want to make sure those are set in the beginning. So in my firewall / router, I have here two of my port forwarding ranges. Here I've named DSSV rep and of course DSSV rep for volume replication 1. Here I have my port starting at 12,000, and the end is 13,999 using TCP. And of course, this is on the server on my end in Atlanta, pointing to my DSSV6 server, the Atlanta server that you see here in this tab up here. Then I set my other port range 40,000 to 40,000 TCP, and of course destined to the 192.168.0.221. And once I've enabled this and make sure that the other firewall on the other end is enabled, then I can go ahead and proceed by starting the volume replication. So let's take a look at the Atlanta server. This here is the local IP address internal, my network address translation, my private IP that I have here. So we're just the 221 that we had set for the firewall ports. What we're going to do right now is go back to the configuration, volume manager, and volume groups. And of course, I have my units already available. And then here we see VG00. And I'm going to use the VG00 to create my iSCSI volume with replication. Now, previously, one of the engineers that I work with here, we set up a small volume of 1 gig, and we're replicating across the other side of the world in Europe. So we want to test it out with 1 gig. So what we're going to do is we're going to create let's go 20 gig. So what we're going to do is click on the action bars, select new iSCSI volume. You can also create a new target or associate the new iSCSI volume to an existing target. Currently right now we'll just go ahead and, just for the sake of it, create new target automatically. Now you notice here there's use volume replication. So we want to enable this for the volume that we want to replicate. I'm going to take the default of the block I/O for this case, but you can use file I/O. And if you select file I/O, keep in mind that if you're initializing, it's like doing a low-level format, so it writes with all zeros. You can increase the rate if you're doing with file I/O. You have slow, medium, and fast. Keep in mind that if you're doing the initialization and you already have users connecting to the DSS v6, whether you're going to be doing iSCSI or NAS or fiber channel, a lot of resources are dedicated to complete the writing with all zeros, so you will see some performance hit. So I recommend using the slow, or if after hours, use the fast, and that'll do it quicker. So for now, we're just going to use the block I/O function for the iSCSI. We'll go ahead and create 20 gig. And of course, there is some additional memory that's being used for the replication that is stored that we subtract from the capacity that is free and available. Now, let's go ahead to our secondary system, which is the one in Europe. And here again, we are in the volume manager, and we need to create the same size. So you can't do a volume replication, whether it be NAS or iSCSI or even fiber channel, if you have different sizes, so they need to be exactly the same size. All right, we're going to select use the volume replication again, create the new target automatically, and we'll put our equal size of 20 gig. So once we've done that, let's go back to the Atlanta system, and here we see that the new target, the iSCSI volume is created, and it's denoted as iSCSI volume block I/O, and it's also noted as a replication task associated with it. Notice you can't, you see the grayed out here, that means I can't delete it. Only way you can remove that volume, if you were to want to remove it, you would have to remove the task that's associated with that volume. In order to do that, you would need to click on the action button, go to modify LV00, and then click on the use volume replication, and then click apply. And then what you'll see is that the volume will now have the red X on it. And if you also have a target on it and it's enabled, you won't be able to remove that volume as well. So keep in mind that you have to remove it from the target and dismount the iSCSI volume in order for you to remove the iSCSI volume or any volume that has an associated task. All right, now let's go ahead and put the volume replication back on. So we're going to modify LV00 and specify use volume replication. So I kind of wanted to show you that you can remove a logical volume. You can also increase the logical volume as well if you're in a volume replication. Just remember that you have to stop and then kill or delete, remove the task, and then of course remove the replication task that's associated with the volume, just like what we did right now, and then expand both ends of the iSCSI volumes that you want to replicate. And then of course add the replication task associated with them, and then start and create your new volume replication task. All right, and what we want to do is we know that when we create a replication, by default, the volume replication mode will be set to source. So being that Atlanta is going to be my source, I want to make sure that LV00 it is on source, but that means on my destination server in Europe, we need to make sure that it's set for destination. So let's go ahead and get on to our Europe server, click on the volume replication, and you want to make sure that you're matching the proper logical volume. So here we'll see that once it comes up, LV002 should be set to destination. Okay, now once we've done that, what we look at here is the mirrored server IP address. The one in Europe is pointing to my WAN IP address here located in Atlanta, which is 24.30.44.94. And the one in Atlanta is pointing to the one in Europe, which is 213.17.139.235. Now we have enabled the WAN replication ID, and we both are equal in the same character, so they have to be equal. So here we have OpenEWAN on the source. And if we go to the Europe server, DSSV6, we see that the replication ID OpenEWAN is also noted. Once you're complete with that, then you go ahead and hit apply on both of them. And then you should be able to be presenting your task name. So let's go ahead and create our iSCSI task name. call this the iSCSI WAN. We know that if you have many volumes in here you can select from, but we know that we just created one on the LV00. And if you notice here, this one's grayed out. That means we already have a running task already with LV004. And if we look down here, we can see that the task manager is showing, as it takes a second for it to load up, that it's synchronous, the destination IP address, which is the one in Europe, and of course the source and destination volumes. So let's go ahead and do a scan, and it's going to scan the IP address from the remote destination server, and here it has found the logical volume LV002. And if they were different sizes, it would not find that logical volume. So even if we were a meg off or a half a meg or any variance difference, it will not pick up the destination volume. Similarly, if you're not able to connect, make sure you try to do pings from the console screen. There is a ping command to verify that you can ping that IP address. This will also verify if you're able to see the destination server. You want to kind of rule out your any issues with connectivity. Now, being that I've got not a real fast internet speed, I only have a cable modem speed that we're just testing with. And typically I get a lot of customers that ask about this question: what size should I use for bandwidth? And we default to 40 meg. Well, this is because it's internal. We have no way of knowing what your environment is. So in this case, my uplink speed is about 5 meg and my download is about 28 meg. So I really don't have a really large pipe size going out. So I really need to be conservative about this, because there's no way I'm going to be able to achieve 40 megs on a 5 meg uplink. So probably the scenario here would be to change this to 5 megs, so that way we're not overutilizing resources, and it's just physically impossible to do it because of the pipe size, so I'm not going to be able to get that. So let's go ahead and create our task. Now, I want to also note, what happens if you had many volume replication tasks and you have a small pipe size? I recommend, like currently right now, if we had another volume replication task, I probably would set that instead of 5. Maybe I'd set for each 2 meg per each. That way we're not oversubscribing to it. Okay, now once we see that we have the task, we have to click on the green button, which is the play button, to start the replication task. So this is going to take just a second or two, and what we're going to see is the start time. It's going to give the reference of the date and the time that it started. And then what we're going to go is we're going to go check the consistency between the source and destination volumes. So it started now. And now let's check that the status is updated with a consistent to consistent for source and destination. So what we're going to do is go to status, and then we're going to go to task. We're going to click on the one that we just created, which is the iSCSI_WAN. Here's the date and time that it started. And so right now it's collecting both the information from the destination as well. And here we're seeing that it's going to be taking some time to replicate. So you can see that the size and the pipe size that we have, obviously it's going to take some time. So the rate right now is it'll shift, it's replicating block by block. So we have obviously some time that we have to wait. So over a very slow WAN speed, you can see that this takes some time. Recommendation is typically sister the systems next to each other. So that way, if you're in the same building, let them replicate before deploying the system out to your destination and locale. So a lot of customers what they'll do is they'll bring the systems together, replicate the volumes, if there's data on there as well, and then once it's complete and states that it's consistent, similar to what we created here on these volumes, what we started a long time ago, early this morning, that became consistent, then you can deploy the systems and they'll reconnect. And what happens is it's only replicating the new data at that point. So you will see a consistent, and it won't take as long. So that's why it's good to point out that if you have terabyte volumes and there's data on it, let them replicate next to each other so they're sistered on the same local area network, and then deploy the destination server to the remote site, reconnect, and you won't have to wait this length of time that you're seeing here. So that's what's so very important about the WAN replication that I wanted to point out to everybody. What we wanted to show that is in the volume replication. If we go back to the task, and also on the destination, I want to point out that you will on the destination have the reverse side noted. So let's bring that screen up so you can see that. So here we have the existing one that we created. And all it's going to provide is information of the source, because right now it's in destination mode. So what happens if you wanted to actually, for some reason, you wanted to have the destination to be source and access the data, or that you wanted to check and verify that the destination does have the data updated? Well, it's really easy. What you can do is you could set this to be source, which is currently now the destination, and then set the source to be the destination server. So let's go ahead and run through this process. So currently right now we have LV004 as the source, and it is our task called task that we have. So what we want to do is be able to switch them so the LV004 is the destination, and of course the destination volume LV003 will be the source. So what we have to do is we have to stop the task, and in here now it's unlocked. So we can go ahead and click on destination. Now we go over to the Europe side, do a refresh. It's going to take a few minutes because we're reaching. And now you notice that LV003 is unlocked. And now we can switch this to be in source. So we're going to hit apply on that. And give that a second. Now what we can do is start the task. And let's go back to our first one, destination, make sure it is locked. So what we're going to do is refresh the screen. Now we see it's locked for LV004, which was the source. And here, going back to the Europe one that was previously the destination server, which is now the source, and it is going to be, let's refresh it. And we see that it's locked for the LV03 and now source. And here you can see the task. And so now you see that it does show that it's source volume and its destination and it's synchronous. You can also verify with the status task. And here you can see the test in reverse. So it's consistent. So if you were to have new data on now the new source in Europe and transfer the data, then it's going to replicate over to the destination server in Atlanta. And of course, you can switch them back. So if you wanted to switch back from Atlanta to be source, you follow those same procedures that we just went over. So I hope that explains the WAN replication that we've talked about. Also wanted at the beginning, I kind of let you know that where are all the videos stored. If you click on the Openee website and go to libraries and go to the webcasts and videos, here you'll see all the videos that we have listed for everything in our recorded videos. So there's a lot of information for all of you to research and find out. Additionally, I wanted to point out in the Libraries tab and How To Resources, you can see that we have also the replication information here. So you could view how to reference if you wanted to print this out and keep it locally. So here you have doing synchronous volume replication over the WAN, and then also references to what this video is about.